live right here on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Welcome to this week's Ask Shelly segment. I am your emotional intelligence expert, CEO and owner of Ask Shelly Consulting. Today, we are talking about women's hatred for their own vaginas. There's a woman that wrote in specifically about her own personal hatred and discussed with her vagina and how that has now been passed down to her own daughter. And guess what? This is common. This is not something that is rare. So I want us to talk about it. I am a licensed psychotherapist here in the state of Florida. I have the privilege of working with individuals, with couples and families, bringing them to their next level, helping them in overcoming emotional injury through the provision of evidence-based psychotherapeutic interventions. So what does that mean? That means I do counseling, I do therapy almost 7 days a week, partnering with people who have made the decision to break past their injury, to break past their behavioral and thought patterns. Every Tuesday, I come before you live to share a question that has been asked of me. And I do that because my listeners, those who write in, find so much value in what you have to say. And so please engage. Go in the comments now. Let me know where you are tuning in from. Let me know your feedback. Let me know if you agree, disagree. What are your tips? There are so many times, countless times that people will write in after or email after they've written in their initial question to say how valuable your feedback was. So make sure that you are engaging, that you are commenting. Let me know how you feel, what you think. It is priceless. I want to say, for those of you who hear the things that we talk about and feel like you need additional support, understand that this is not therapy. It is in no way an attempt to replace that process. I have the opportunity to provide feedback. You have the opportunity to provide feedback. If you feel that you need therapy, you can email info@askshelly.com. Therapy is a completely different process. It is a process where someone aligns themselves with a certified licensed psychotherapist that can assist them, again, by providing therapeutic interventions to help them in overcoming presenting issues. This is for informational purposes. It gives you an opportunity to add to your wellness toolbox. We're talking about women hating their own vaginas, women who think their vaginas are ugly. Can you relate? Do you have any experience? Do you have friends that feel that way? Men, have you had a woman, a girlfriend, or if it's your wife or an ex-wife that had issues with her body image, issues with her private parts? I'd love to hear from you. I want to say thank you to It's Vega Love here on Instagram, the Big Closer, Mudbox Entertainment, Keegan 1924. Thank you. Let's see where we are at here on Facebook. Hi, Lucinda. Hello, Bree. Thank you so much. Bree says she's tuning in from Kansas City, Missouri. Okay. Lucinda checking in from Maryland. Cool. Thank you so much. All right. Well, we're going to get started. Is this something new? Have you ever heard of it, ever experienced it, had a friend, girlfriend? If it's yourself, let me know. Is this something new? This is the first time you heard of it, that you saw the topic and thought, what? What woman hates their own vagina? Guess what is actually common? Let's get to the question. Let me know your feedback. When you hear the question, you can provide your feedback. It's Vega Love says, it's new to me. Oh my gosh. Yes, there are so many women, it's Vega Love, that do not find the beauty in their vaginas. And it really helps them to stay disconnected physically with their own bodies. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Dear Ash Shelly, I am a woman who hates my vagina. She got right to the point. I appreciate that. I am a woman who hates my vagina. Keegan 1924 says it's not new. Let me know what your experience was. Okay. I am a woman who hates my vagina. I have hated my vagina for as long as I remember. I think it's ugly. It is very hard to explain. I avoid looking at myself naked in the mirror, and I have had many issues having sex in relationships. My husband has gotten used to my complaints about how I look and has gotten used to having sex in the dark or having sex in positions where my vagina is hidden. It is not much of a problem for us. What is a problem is that my daughter feels the same way about her vagina, and I would hate for her to go through the turmoil I have endured for most of my life. Please share tips. Woo! Oh, I'm gonna need you guys. Hello, Martine from Port Charlotte. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bree says that a woman hating her own vagina, thinking it's ugly, is something that is new to her as well. Keegan here on Instagram says, not allowed to look on it. Okay, so you were not allowed to look. Okay, I can see that. That has a lot, that screams a lack of self-acceptance, and that is a major issue. We're gonna go back to the question and we're gonna jump into feedback. Provide your feedback. I wanna hear what you have to say. What do you say to a woman who hates her own body, right? Because her vagina is a part of her body, right? So we're going to talk about this. Dear Ash Shelley, I am a woman who hates my vagina. I have hated my vagina for as long as I remember. I think it's ugly. It is very hard to explain. I avoid looking at myself naked in the mirror and have had many issues having sex in relationships. My husband has gotten used to my complaints about how I look and has gotten used to having sex in the dark or having sex in positions where my vagina is hidden. It is not much of a problem for us. What is a problem is that my daughter feels the same way about her vagina, and I would hate for her to go through the turmoil I have endured for most of my life. Please share tips. Okay, so I need to hear your feedback. Alexandra says, hello, my beautiful cousin, and I send greetings to you, my beautiful cousin. Marjorie, hello. She says, good afternoon. I would love to hear what you have to say, Marjorie. Thank you, Michael Scott, for tuning in from Ohio, I believe it is. Thank you so much. All right, KMF Consulting, we are talking about women hating their vaginas. So let me tell you this. I'm going to be very, very real here. When I got the question, I was like, and I try not to do that. Like, people write in, they want help. It doesn't matter what I think about it, If it's something X-rated, then you know what? We'll do it in the evening because we want to make sure that we're not doing anything that would be hurtful, right? Or damaging in any way to someone, to a child's ears, right? Outside of that, though, I try to be really real about the questions that come in. And so I go and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to call this segment, I Hate My Body, or I Hate Down There, and I was like, wait, I had to check myself. I had a problem with just calling it what it is. Vagina. It wasn't, she specifically said, she didn't say, I hate my body part, I hate down there, I hate my flower. She said the word vagina. And many of us have an issue with saying the word vagina. Right? So even with parents, I tell parents all the time, when you are raising your children, be careful. Be careful with what you say. There was a little girl for about 6 months. She would go to her teacher. This is when I was counseling younger girls and providing play therapy for individuals who have been sexually abused. She kept going to her teachers and telling the teachers that her uncle keeps touching her pocketbook. The teacher had no idea that what she was referring to was her vagina. So I was trying to think of ways like calling it a pocketbook, calling it, Haitians call it shushu, and we have all these different names for it. Guess what? It's called a vagina, and we have to start celebrating it. Our vaginas is what causes life to be what it is. There would be no procreation if it wasn't for our beautiful, strong vaginas. So let's say it together. Vagina. Okay. So I had to check myself because I was like, man, I don't want to put the word vagina on this, on this graphic, but guess what? That's exactly what it is. It is beautiful. It's like the fingertip. If you are looking for someone in this world to match your fingerprint, you will die trying to find someone that has your lifeline, that has your purpose, that has your gifting. You're going to try to find someone that has the same reason why you were created. Guess what? You will never find it, baby. It's like the snowflake. You can only find one of a kind. You will never find two snowflakes that are the same. You will never find two fingerprints that are exactly the same. Vaginas are all different, not two the same. And so we have to break past this idea that a beautiful vagina looks like how Barbie looks when she's naked. So why am I throwing shade on Barbie? Why am I throwing shade? Martine said, Martine on Facebook says, bubun. Yes, bubun. It's vagina, right? Actually, it's not really a vagina because a vagina is internal. That's like your productive system is actually a vulva. But we're not talking about that right now. So people who said this is new to you may not have heard of a plastic surgical procedure that is on fire right now. I think it's called labiaplasty. Right? And what happens is women are going in and they are reconstructing their vaginas. They are reconstructing their vaginas. What they're doing is they're going on the inside. I think it's called the labia minora. Please do not quote me. I'm trying here. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a plastic surgeon. But the labia minora is like the inside of the lips of the vagina. And what they're doing in this procedure is taking that tissue away. They're minimizing that tissue so that the vagina becomes like a smooth surface. Just like what Barbie looks like when she's naked. So it's literally taking the thickness of the lips and thinning it out to where the surface of the vagina is pretty flat and smooth. People are actually putting themselves through this in order to have a certain image, in order for their vaginas to match this image that they have in their minds of what a pretty vagina looks like. And so with labiaplasty being on the rise, right, for girls as young as 15, do you know what that means? That means that there is a parent somewhere out there that is consenting for their 15-year-old to have this surgical procedure done to them. Come on, I need someone. Y'all need to talk to me today. You need to talk to me today. Yes, it's Vega love. Yes, it is actually happening right now. It is on the rise. So what do we need to do here? What do we need to do here? Lucinda says here on Facebook, Barbie is not anatomically correct, but there are so many people that live their lives trying to get to that image, right? Trying to get to that image. So here's this mother. Remind you, let me just say this. Notice how she says, you know, me and my husband, we just get around it. We just embrace positions where he can't see my vagina. I don't look at myself in the mirror. It's no problem. What the problem is that now my daughter has the same hatred. Now it's a problem. That is so sad. That is so sad. I respect the fact that you acknowledge it, that it's a problem now that your daughter, right, is exemplifying the same thought processes, but it's sad that you don't see it just for yourself, that you have the right to love yourself. You have the right to embrace every part of your body. So first and foremost, we have to acknowledge that body image issues in women, specifically as it relates to their vagina, is very common. Why is it an issue? Let's start with the why. Why is it an issue? It is an issue because a powerful woman is a dangerous thing. If you agree with me, say amen. Say amen. A powerful woman is a dangerous thing. Listen, I started to think much different about my power when I learned that the king of the jungle, what's the king of the jungle? The king of the jungle is the lion, but who does the hunting? Can somebody let me know who does the hunting? Facebook, let me know. The king of the jungle, who does the hunting, honey? It is the woman. It is the lioness that goes out there and kills and murders and makes sure that the family is fed. And so listen, a powerful woman is a dangerous thing. Why? What makes a woman powerful? What makes a woman powerful? I will tell you what makes a woman powerful. What makes a woman powerful is anointing that only comes from God above. Amen. So what makes a woman powerful? Anointing. What makes a woman powerful? Wisdom. Ain't nobody want no dumb chick. Okay. There is nothing cute about your ignorance. There's nothing cute about your lack of independence, okay? Come on now. What makes a woman powerful is anointing. What makes a woman powerful is wisdom. And what makes a woman powerful is confidence. We have to love ourselves. So for women to truly operate in purpose, it is important for us to embrace every part of our bodies, our big breasts, small breasts, perky breasts, sagging breasts, little lump around the belly, the way our butts jiggle when we walk, or if they don't jiggle at all because you don't have much meat down there, that's okay too. Your big head, little head, bags under your eyes, gapped. Listen, we have to learn how to embrace ourselves because beauty comes from within. If you accept yourself as beautiful, every man, every person will accept that as beauty as well. We have to embrace ourselves in order to truly walk in power. That's why it's important. Another reason why this is so important, the fact that we have to learn to love ourselves, is that you cannot embrace what you don't accept. And you can't establish unity with what you don't accept. And so we have a lot of women that are disconnected sexually from themselves because they don't accept their bodies or even have unity with their bodies. There are so many women that can't even say in a sex therapy session what pleasures them, right? And so if you can't say it, then you can't expect the person that you're with to meet those needs because you don't even know them yourself. And so it is important for us to make it a point to overcome these body image issues because why? We are women, we are powerful. It's important that we walk in that power. It's important to embrace and accept ourselves because there is even power in that. There would be no unity between us and our sexuality, our beauty, our power, our purpose without it. And most importantly, if we don't overcome it, if we don't break it, if we don't overcome it, the only room for that issue to go is to play down in our offspring. Do you understand that? Let me say that again. Let me say that again. If you don't overcome it, then you are actively participating. You are actively participating in passing it down to your children. If you can't break through the inability for you to be single, if you can't break through your inability to manage your money, if you do not break it, then you are going to pass it down to your children. And that's exactly what happened with this woman. Because now she's looking at like, uh-oh, like my daughter doesn't want to look in the mirror, like, oh, so now it's a problem, right? And this is why breakthrough is so important. So that we can break it. We can break those generational curses, that we do it so we can set ourselves and our children free and our children's children free. We have the power to do that. KMF Consulting here on Instagram says generational issues. It's Vega Love says, preach, come on, people. It doesn't make any sense how you can despise and hate something that is on your body. The word says that we were fearfully and wonderfully made. Do you know what fearfully made is? That means that, have you ever held a newborn? It's so uncomfortable to hold a newborn because they're so fragile. You don't want to hurt them. That's what fearfully means. That means that God created us and he was just like, oh, this is just so perfect. Yes. And so when we engage in that, right? A lot of the issues that women have with sexuality is because they don't find themselves sexy. They don't find themselves attractive. They don't love themselves. It goes back to, if women really embrace their sexy, their beauty, the very uniqueness in it, we would see a lot of the sexual issues that we see today and hear about, we would see those decrease. I'm telling you. So it is important that we overcome. We don't want to pass these issues down to our kids. So let's talk about some causes. Let's talk about some causes, right? So we know the why. The importance of overcoming this is because we need to walk in power. We have to be able to embrace every part of our bodies. We have to make sure that we break past those issues so we are not passing them down to our offspring. Some causes of body image issues. Oh, this is good. This is good. This is good. Okay, KMF Consulting here on Instagram says there are books that help with discussing the body. The care and keeping of you is just one. It's Vega Love here on Instagram says I have a problem with that. I actually don't like being sexy. Weird, but it's true. Oh, woo! We need to talk. We need to talk. Okay, and I appreciate your transparency. Some of the causes of why women would look at their vagina and call it ugly, and there are many different ones, and I am not going to make believe like I can wrap up every single issue right here. There's so many different ones. I'm going to share this. Didn't want to share it, but I'm going to be very real. I had a woman who was actually referred through DCF. She had an open case with the Department of Children and Families, and she had to get help. She had to get therapy in order to get her kids back. And so she was sexually abused by her uncle, which was her mother's brother. And he threatened her. The reason how he kept her quiet was that he continued to threaten her about threatened bodily harm if she ever told anybody about their sexual encounters. And so one day she decides that she is going to tell her mother, because he was the primary caregiver. When the mother was out, she would leave her with, guess who? Uncle, who was molesting her. And so she attempts to tell mom. And guess what mom does? Mom doesn't tell the cops. Mom doesn't follow up. Mom confronts uncle. And so, of course, uncle denies that it ever happened, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, they go back to the same arrangement. Well, guess what uncle did? He made true on his promise that he would hurt her. And so he took one of her lips, one of her labia of her vagina, and cut it in two. And so when she looks at herself in the mirror as an adult, she sees three lips, three labia because of this injury. She's constantly reminded of this trauma. So while not everybody's trauma is the same, one of the issues that people would develop a hatred for their body parts is trauma. Another is a lack of education. We're not teaching children to look down there. We're not teaching them that every vagina looks different and embracing that, right? We teach with this diagram that looks like a cow's head or goat head. What kind of head is that? And we teach about, the insides, and we pull the girls into this room and whisper and educate in a whisper like there's something wrong about what they're learning, but there's a lack of education. I had never, ever been told to take a mirror and just look down there. Look at my vagina. I said down there. Ooh. I had never been told to look at my vagina. Take a mirror. Look at my vagina. I'm trying not to use those words that we're conditioned to say, right? I had not been told that until I was like an adult. Nobody had ever said that. Nobody ever talked about vagina like it was something beautiful and powerful and strong and something that was a source of pleasure and life. it was talked about like, you know, you're going to get pregnant and go to hell. You'll get sexually transmitted diseases. Hey, and you know what? We're never going to show you a healthy vagina, but let's show you a vagina that looks like herpes. Let me show you a vagina that looks like gonorrhea. Let me show you a vagina that looks like chlamydia. Just the association itself would cause someone to think that it's a dirty thing, a smelly thing, you know what I mean? And so the lack of education in how we associate vaginas, God forbid, you know, I started menstruating. I was if I told you how old, you would think I was lying. I was almost 17 years old. So I didn't have the challenge of being in an elementary school or middle school and having to go to like this little closet and get this little lunch box that really wasn't a lunch box. This is what you go when you have your period, so you can quietly go to the bathroom so nobody knows that you have your period, right? So there's so much negative associations that surround vagina that I'm sure are very unintentional, but it creates these connections in our brain that cause us to look at our body parts like there is an issue. Abuse is another reason. Abuse. Dr. Miles Monroe defines abuse as the abnormal use of a thing. And so there are many women that use their vaginas to please men or to keep men, to get the bills paid, to fill voids in their lives. That's an abnormal use of something that God gives us, something that God put as in our anatomy to give the greatest gift a woman could ever give a man. So the abnormal use of the vagina is another issue here. Learned behavior is huge. Learned behavior is huge. So your children learn so much more by what you, by how you act, right? So children are learning more lessons than any. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you say. The most powerful lessons are what they see. And so when they see or if they hear you talking bad about yourself and being, you know, hyper focused on your weight, hyper focused on how you look, hyper focused on your body image, those types of things, they get passed down. It's learned behavior. And so our daughters, our sons, you know, nephews, those you are giving care to can actually learn that their issues, their self-concept, right? The way that they value themselves can very much be a result of learned behavior. So that is why we have to be careful how it is we talk about ourselves, especially, you know, in the midst of our children, like in their environment, in the midst of their eye gates or ear gates. I mean, if you're not going to do it in front of them, you shouldn't do it behind their back anyway, right? But learned behavior is huge. I have to take accountability for those times where my daughter will have a meal, go into go in front of a mirror and say, "Look, Mom, look at this little pooch. Look at this little," and I'm like, "Girl, you just had a hot dog. Like, really?" But guess what? I always do that. And at one point, it was very, very problematic, and it was very, very dysfunctional. And I will talk about that at a different time, but we have to be careful what we say, how we treat ourselves, how we talk about ourselves, right? Because our children will pick up those patterns. And another cause of why someone would have issues with their body parts, issues with their vagina, with their genitalia, is not really understanding the characteristics of that body part. Right? And so we have to remember that, you know, the vagina is a very delicate thing. You eat the wrong thing, eat too much of this, too little of that. It throws the body off. It throws the pH balance off. And then it creates these very uncomfortable feelings and odors and things of that nature. But if we understood it more, we wouldn't self-condemn ourselves or try to make it seem or create this understanding that we're dirty, we're not worthy. You know, they say that a lot of the times when women are not really getting lost in pleasure in sexual relationships, it's because they're thinking about, how do I look? How do I smell? Do I look sexy enough? Am I saying the right things? It's just too much preoccupation. And so what would cause someone to not really truly love and embrace the beauty of their vagina? Trauma, a lack of education, what the vagina is associated with, the things that we learn, those kind of patterns that we learned, right? Those associations of when you have your period, there's this whole secret society on how to get your pads, and you would never say out loud that you're menstruating, and you know, all of those things, those are associations. We talked about abnormally using our bodies, right, because of emotional injury and voids that we have to heal from. We talked about learned behavior and not understanding the true characteristics of our body parts. What do we do? What can we do? We need to educate ourselves. We need to educate ourselves about our bodies. We need to educate ourselves about how our vaginas look, how they operate. We have to maximize our wisdom and knowledge on vaginal health. That's very important, right? Because through that education, you will understand how to, care for yourself and to care for your vagina, right? Embrace it. Do what's best so that you're not stuck in situations like, I'm always getting infections, I must be dirty, it smells, or whatever it is. But educating ourselves is very important. Another thing is to get therapy. To get therapy to overcome all the emotional injury, the trauma that causes us to feel the way that we feel about our vaginas. What type of counseling? Remember, I said you always got to make sure that you are clear about what type of counseling you need. You can go to a consultation. There are a lot of therapists that offer free consultation, so you can at least know what it is you need to look for, right? So you don't want to go to an eye doctor, right, if you have issues in your gums. So you want to make sure that you are seeing a sex therapist. A sex therapist will help you to overcome sexual trauma, to be able to really truly embrace yourself, will really help you to get connected with your body. And in that connection, you will be able to reconnect with the sexual, your sexual senses, right? It's important to recreate those connections and to alleviate those blockages. So I definitely recommend counseling. Sex therapy is a good one. If it's relationship trauma or sexual trauma, you can see a trauma expert in order to overcome that emotional injury. Or if it's just solely just general self-esteem issues, self-concept, your automatic thoughts are self-derogatory, your automatic thoughts are self-condemning, you can reframe that internal dialogue. You can reframe that internal dialogue. You can reframe that thought process. You can reframe it. You can create new associations, but you have to take the step and get the counseling and the help that you need. Another tip, you need to expose yourself to other healthy women who are open about having these conversations about sex, about sexual pleasure, about vaginal health, about their vaginas. When you align yourself with other powerful women who understand who they are, and they are openly having dialogue about, guess what, not the flower, not the bubun, not the shushun, not the whatever else we call it, but women who are strong and powerful, understand the beauty of their vaginas, the power in their vaginas, and they're having this amazing conversation. It will change your mind about how you feel about yourself. You need a voice that's louder than your own. You need a voice that's louder than your own. You need to align yourself with voices that are speaking louder than your internal dialogue. And so the more that you align yourself with women that are going to normalize our vaginal experiences, normalize vaginal health, normalize loving your body just the way that it is, the more that you expose yourself to that, the more acceptance you will have for yourself. It's more important. It's so important, It's so important to increase the exposure that you have to healthy women that are having healthy dialogue about how they feel. Another tip, look at it more. Look at your vagina more. Look at your vagina more, because things that are unfamiliar, we tend to have this innate fear of things that we are unfamiliar with. We tend to unintentionally reject the things that we are unfamiliar with. So make it familiar. And while you are looking at your beautiful body part, you are so lucky to be among those who are powerful, who God chooses to use to give and birth life, right? And just so many other things for those women who do not or cannot have natural childbirth. They are still equipped to be amazing mothers and nurturers and caregivers. But that while you are looking at your vagina with the mirror, you're laying down, you got some nice music going on, that you would just continuously say out loud just how beautiful your vagina is. We need to look at our vaginas more. Unfamiliar things we tend to fear, we tend to reject. So increase your exposure. I would also recommend to really check your spirituality, really assess where you are spiritually, because one of the things that I will never understand in all of these years of me serving this world and serving my clients and those who I interact with through the gift of psychotherapy. And yes, I do consider it a gift because it is a crossroad. There is a crossroad between spirituality and psychology, and being able to give the world that truth is such a privilege. But one of the things that even in all of my education and experience that I will never understand is how someone can truly know who they are without knowing the person that created you. It's so important to know why you were created, to know what the Creator had in mind for you. What the Creator had in mind for you, what the Creator had in mind for your sarcasm, what the Creator had in mind with for your creativity, what the Creator had in mind with the fact that you memorize numbers so well, what the Creator had in mind for your ability to speak so eloquently and draw people in. To not know what the Creator had in mind for you, I can only imagine that it would cause people to be completely lost. And so reuniting with your higher power and connecting with your Creator to know that everything about you is perfect. And even those things, the learned behavior and the experiences that may have thrown us off or thrown us out of the will of God, there is redemption. There's always redemption. There is correction. There is realignment that is available. And so to not know God, to not know your Creator, to not know your higher power, to not know the author and the finisher of your faith, to not know the beginning and the end, would only cause you to look at His perfect creation and call it flawed. And so I definitely recommend that you take a look at the needs, the growth potential areas in your spirituality, because it's so important when it gets to the point where we are rejecting the very thing that God created. The very thing that God created. The last tip that I have, and this is something more macro. The studies show that out of the women, now listen to this, out of the women who actually underwent or have undergone that, the surgery that I talked about, those women that have undergone that surgery, that when they talked about what was the thing, the catalyst for them doing that, and the women have said that the thing that caused them to have the surgery was a comment that was made, feedback that they had received from a man. Okay, I'm not saying that's the only reason. That most of the women, and I want to say the percentage was higher than 65%, said that it was related, their decision to get the surgery, labiaplasty surgery, right? That is reconstruction of your labia, your vaginal, the lips that we call it, right? Taking out all that tissue that is there. By the way, let me just say this. That tissue is there to protect the internal structures of our vagina, it's there to keep us naturally lubricated. So it's there for protection. It's there for pleasure. So the long-term effects of that it just seems so scary to me. I'm not judging, but it just seems so scary what the long-term effects could possibly be. Okay, now going back. So they say that most of the women say that the catalyst behind their decision, right, that the impetus in their decision to actually have the surgical procedure was a comment that was made by a man. And so I think it's important to educate even our boys, right, about these things, about the beauty, the diversity, making sure that we are just interrupting these lessons that are out there about what beauty looks like, right? In all of the images that we see when it comes to nudity, there's like this common message there of small waist, big breasts, hips, or, whatever, right? And so it's important that we use the power of education to come against those images so people can embrace the uniqueness of their beauty, as uncommon as it may be. So I want to hear from you guys. Let's see. Oh boy, I got some questions here. If you have questions or comments, please comment. What do we have here? All right. We have, okay, so yes. All right, so I'm going to start with where I left off here. It's Vega Love talked about just kind of finding just, I actually don't like being sexy. Weird, but it's true. Okay, she says, KMF Consulting says to It's Vega Love, how you define sexy is up to you. That is so good. How we define sexy is up to us. KMF Consulting says, but it starts with us women. Bring open to learning more about ourselves. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with taking that mirror, right, and taking a look and saying, hello, beautiful vagina. Yes, KMF Consultants says to talking about it openly can change your perspective. Yes, just talking about it openly can change your perspective. Keegan 1924 says, can this be linked to Christians trying to prevent the girls from having sex, but when they become women, they don't get retrained? Come on. Yes, that's so good. He just brought up some, guys, listen to this question. He says, can this be linked to Christians trying to prevent the girls from having sex, but when they become women, they don't get retrained? This is called aversion training. So we are going to make something seem so aversive that you don't have the motivation to want to do it. So if we started to teach children about just how pleasurable sex was, how pleasurable it would be to really know your body parts and know what stimulates you, not even if it's just teens, right? Because we want to do that in an age-appropriate way. How many parents think that we would be motivating them to engage in sexual activity? I think that there's a fear that if we are honest about these things, that we would cause our teens, our adolescents, our children to want to engage. And so we make it seem so aversive. We don't necessarily teach about pleasure. We don't necessarily teach about beauty, but we make it seem like it's so ugly, so quiet, and it helps us, and it causes so many women to walk around with shame. Shame for their body, shame for their big breasts, shame for their big behinds, shame for their beauty. I remember that there was a time I had a client that said that she was playing in the backyard one day. She said she was about 8 years old and her 8-year-old body did not look like any other 8-year-old body. She was wearing a bra at that time. She was already in like a C cup or even higher. And she was still young. She wanted to play like everybody else, but she was very developed. And so she's playing and just getting down. They're playing soccer and wrestling, all this stuff. And she said that her father goes out there, pulls her into the house and was like, you cannot play like this. Do you see your body? You look like, and he said the S word, S-L-U-T. He called her a slut. And she, in all of her innocence, was just playing out there, but it didn't look innocent because her body was so overdeveloped at that age. And so she forever just adopted this idea that she was not beautiful and that her development was something dirty. That the fact that she had breasts when no one else had breasts was dirty. The fact that her butt was bigger than everybody else's was just dirty. We have to be able to overcome our biases, those learned behaviors that we were taught to try to keep us from having sex. And I think that honestly, the more open you are and the more open dialogue that you have with your children, the more honest they will be with you about what they're feeling and what you are thinking. And you can disrupt and derail any plan that may be unhealthy for them to explore. But what happens is we try to keep them from engaging by teaching these very aversive lessons, and they end up sneaking and doing it anyway in very unhealthy ways because you screwed them up by your teaching. So honesty is always the best policy. And that was an amazing comment and question, Keegan 1924. Oh boy, I'm skipping over here to Facebook. We have Marjorie. She says, we are not all made the same. We must know and remember that we are uniquely made. Our vaginas will not look the same. Learn to appreciate your vagina as you would your hair or eyes. Learn it and know it for your mental and health reasons. That is so good. Thank you, Marjorie. That's so good. Shantae Vincent says, we can hold on to lies for years. I would recommend you go look at the most beautiful flowers and look at yourself. Look at your vagina and realize it is similar and beautiful, made to do amazing things. Oh my God. That was so good, Shantae. Martine here on Facebook says, sex education is key. I had this class at 12, thank God. Otherwise, I would not have learned anything about my vagina from my mom. Most of us don't learn those things from our parents. But guess what? We will learn them. Somebody will teach. That porn tape that your uncle left out will teach. That perverted classmate will teach, right? That young girl that was sexually abused and sexually molested, and as a result of that, she has a preoccupation with sex and she's very unhealthy and she has trauma issues. She will teach your daughter. She will teach your son. We have to be the ones to teach and to be comfortable with providing that information in the spirit of truth. There are thousands and thousands of ways that we women in our vaginas and out of our vaginas can provide and receive pleasure. And so it is important for us to get over that learned behavior, our society's definitions of what beautiful looks like, our emotional injury, and embrace the beauty of everything that is on our bodies, everything from the crown of our heads to the very soles of our feet. Bree says that kids watch everything that we do. That is so good. Yes, they do. And guess what? It is a very, very powerful lesson. They're much more powerful than what we say. Much more powerful than what we say. Marjorie says people are always afraid of what they don't completely understand. And this is why we have to get educated, right? We talked about unfamiliarity. It causes us to be fearful. Unfamiliarity will cause our brains to reject. So we have to make the things that are unfamiliar familiar. We have to increase exposure. So that's when we got to take that mirror, honey. Take that mirror, honey, and examine that beautiful, the beauty of your vagina. I was about to say your flower. See, it's so hard. It's so hard to break past those things, right? But it is. You know, Shantae said, it says, think about a beautiful flower garden. it's important for us to see our vaginas the same way. Martine says, amen, sister. Tell our men how to please us. We have the vagina, not them. So we have to guide and educate them about our vagina and how to make us feel good. Come on, let me say that again. She says, amen, sister. Tell our men how to please us. We have the vagina, not them. So we have to guide and educate them about our vagina and how to make us feel good. So to the woman who absolutely hates your vagina and you're starting to feel it away because your daughter is starting to adopt the same thought processes, there's help out there. Get counseling, align yourself with women, powerful women that are speaking very positively and unapologetically about the beauty of their vaginas. Make sure that you educate yourself, that you get your daughter educated as well. Therapy, 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 therapy. Overcome that emotional injury that is so important. Right? Start to have those conversations with your daughter. And if you're really feeling like, I don't even know if I can do that because I have the same issues, get therapy. Get counseling for yourself, get counseling for her, but you can break that pattern here so she is not passing it down to her daughter, right? There's generational curses and there's also generational choices that keep the generational curses operating in our lives. Let me say that again. There are generational curses, but there are also generational choices that empower those generational curses. So choose to do it different. Choose to do it different. Push back against those unhealthy thought processes and push back against those unhealthy thought processes and set yourself free. Yes? Woohoo! This was so good. If I missed anything, I will definitely make sure that I go here into the comments on Instagram, into the comments here on Facebook and YouTube, and acknowledge your question or your comment. Guys, I love my consultation team. I love my consultation team because people come back all the time to share how important and how valuable it was for them to read the comments and the perspectives that were in the comment section of my lives. So thank you for your engagement. It means so much. I really appreciate each and every one of you. For those of you who enjoy my weekly lives, I encourage you to go to my YouTube channel, Ask Shelly, and subscribe. If you think that this was at all helpful, right? Please, before you leave, click on that share button. Make sure that you share. You never know whose ear gates or eye gates that this live would fall in, right? So it's important that we are sharing good news. We're sharing tools. If it's not for you, it will be for someone else. So I thank you. For those of you who need a keynote, you need a moderator, MC, you want someone that will be able to teach, to empower, to transform, you could book me as your next speaker at www.ashshelly.com. For those of you who want individual, couple, or group counseling, you can do so by emailing info@ashshelly.com. And most importantly, send me your most difficult questions. You can email your questions to info@ashshelly.com. It could be about relationships, sex, career, mental illness, how to overcome, whatever. Feel free to send the question to info@ashshelly.com and we will highlight it on one of my Tuesday afternoon segments. So make sure that you write in, make sure that you share. Continue to tune in every Tuesday at 12. I love each and every one of you. God bless. Embrace your beauty and know that there is no two fingerprints alike. So embrace the fact there is no one else like you in this world, that you were created fearfully and wonderfully. No mistakes there. So embrace it. You are beautiful. You are strong, you are enough, and you are the answer that the world needs. God bless you.